Okay, hey everybody, welcome to our book study. We are going to be doing chapter 9 of The Magic of Thinking Big. But before we start that, we're going to say our decree. May God be gracious to us and bless us so that your ways be known on the earth, your salvation among all nations. May all the peoples praise you, O God. O Lord our God, let your favor rest upon us. Come work with us, and then our works will endure. You will give us success in all we do. Thank you, Lord. All righty. This book, I feel like each chapter just gets better and better and better and better. I hope you are loving it as much as I am. And I don't know about you, but I really needed this chapter today because I had some foul attitudes about some people that had treated me wrongly and did some things, and I wanted to throttle them. But success depends on us thinking rightly about people, right? Whether they throttle, whether they do you wrong or not. So I know that I needed this. So I hope it really ministered to you and that you guys grew too. Okay. So, oh, whoops, I have the wrong page up. Chapter 9. Okay. Success depends on the support of other people. And he started by asking the question is, what must I do to get these people to support me and accept my leadership? Well, we have to think rightly towards people, right? And then he talked about the number one quality. Do you remember the number one quality that he talked about that we must have? What's that number one quality? On page 193.
Is that about planning, having a plan to like people? Is that what you mean?
Well, take that a step further, likability. Yes, likability. Like the number one thing that people know, that's likability factor is the first thing mentioned. Out of 9 cases out of 10, people want to know if you like them and can they like you. And you've heard us, if you've been around at all, you've heard us say people are always asking the questions, do I like you? Do you like me? Can I trust you? And can you help me? But the number one question is, do I like you? Nobody wants to join you if they don't like you, right? I mean, it's the truth. We could go for example over example over example, just in modern culture. Do you like them? So people want to know, do you, how is your likability? So let's talk about that. How can we improve? How does likability show up in our business? How can we improve our likability factor?
By adding value to people's lives.
That's right. And how do we do that? Because we talk about that catchphrase all the time. So what does that practically look like?
Giving people tools to improve their life, showing them the possibility, just being a good example of what it is to be, either a good husband or a good wife or a good employee or a good friend or whatever, those things.
Yes. Yes. All of that on your wall, serving people well, Caitlin said, encourage, empower, equip them. Yes. So think about some ways that you can do that on social media. All you have to do is go on Tracy's wall and you're going to feel better because she's always posting something about how God is lifting us up, molding us, making us more like him, becoming like Jesus. She's constantly adding value on her wall, adding value, encouraging people. And that can be just making people laugh. That's a lost art today, right? I mean, I like people that make me laugh. I need to laugh more. So every now and then when I need to laugh, I'll post 80s memes like I did today. And there were some funny ones in there. But that's, you like people that make you laugh. You like people, just like you said, Marlene, that give you advice or, solve problems for them. You like people that encourage, empower, equip, and help you. Okay, excellent, excellent. And he also makes the point, he said on page 194, we don't pull up people higher, rather we lift people up. Okay, so how do we lift people up in our business? How does that apply to what we do?
We help them reach their goals.
And how do we do that?
How do we, well, encourage, empower, equip, all of the things that we do. We're in a people business. So literally we love and serve them well. And we show them how they can be successful in this business. We exemplify leadership. All of them combined help to lift them up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. How do we do that with our words specifically? I guess I'm thinking of something specific. I mean, yes to everything that you just said.
Encouragement.
100%. Casting vision and infusing them with belief. If somebody believes that they can do this, they will do it. And your number one job as a coach or as a mentor is to infuse people with belief, because they can learn the skills of this business by going through the guides in our team page. And each one of you could go through the guides and you can master the skills in 2 weeks. But the reason they don't do that and take action is because of a lack of belief somewhere. But if somebody believes to the core of their being that they can do this and what we have is life-changing, no devil in hell can stop them. And what's 80% of this business? 80% of the business is mindset. So 80% of your mentoring should be helping the mindset and infusing them with belief. Because if they have an injection of belief, nothing can stop them. And that's exactly why convention is so important, because it is the single biggest injection of belief that we have all year. 3 days solid of belief with 12,000 of your closest friends. So that's a side note. Wonderful. Okay. Did you love that list from President Johnson? I really loved that list from President Johnson. I'm not a huge President Johnson fan, but I really loved that list. But that's neither here nor there about my political views. So my question is, which one of those top 10, which one of those, what's the word I'm looking for? Which one of those things resonated with you the most?
You could probably pick which one resonated with me the most, Michelle.
But go ahead and say it, Tracy.
Number 10. Sally's got it. Give spiritual strength to people and they will give you genuine affection to you. And true point. It absolutely is, without a doubt.
That's right. Okay, Tracy, let me see. I mean, you do that like everything. That's who you are. Now, what is one that you need to work on? I just put you on the hot seat.
That's okay. Goodness. All of them. But
or anybody else want to share? I mean, I don't want to put Tracy on the hot seat. But what resonated with you and what do you need to work on? Because I clearly saw things that I do well and clearly things that I need to work on.
I think one that I have been working, one weakness that I definitely know that I've had and that I'm definitely working is practice liking people until you do so genuinely. Like really genuinely being interested in other people in all forms, right? Not just like they're spiritual, but like in everything about them and who they are.
That's really good. And if we did this, I love this chapter so much for so many reasons, because it's talking about thinking rightly towards people. And when you do that, you're more likely to have influence with them, right? And Melissa Eichenhorst said this, and we've talked about it, but when she said this the other day, it really just hit me between the ears. Duplication is influence. And if you're not duplicating, you need to ask yourself the question, what is my influence level? Because duplication has everything to do with influence. So looking at these, the number one way, and I say that because if people don't like you and if you're not interested in people, you're not going to have influence with them. If all you're trying to do is get something from them, but you don't really care about them, you're not going to have influence with them. But when it's really interesting to me. Let me look at my last, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4 of my last joins, I've either met for coffee or I've had a long-term relationship with. I cared about them, and it wasn't, let me get together for coffee with you to get you to join Plexus. It's, you're really cool. I really want to get to know you. Can we hang out? And I really want to get to know you. And I spent the first half of the coffee dates asking them questions, which goes back, and you don't have to do this over coffee. You can do this over a Zoom. You can do it on Messenger. It's much more effective when you're doing voice to voice, but asking them questions, which goes to the later in the chapter where he basically says the person that talks the least is the winner, is the most successful. So that begs the question, how much are we talking versus drawing the other person out and being interested in them versus let me tell you what Plexus can do for you and why I need you to join me because I'm going somewhere and I got it all together. Do you see what I'm saying? Instead of, what's in your heart? Where do you want to be? What has God placed inside of you? What are the things frustrating you? Where do you want to be? Well, maybe this is the vehicle for that. The word I was never even in there. Right? So anybody else want to share anything from that list? Alrighty, page 197. How can we take initiative in friendship? Because leaders are always the one that take initiative. It's so interesting to me. I haven't heard this in a while, but every now and then when we would have a big team gathering, every now and then we'd hear it come back to the leaders that somebody was in a corner and had a pity party because some leader didn't go up and talk to them. They got offended because so-and-so didn't come talk to them. But here's the deal. Leaders take initiative to go talk. It's the difference between a victim and a victorious mindset. I'm always going to wait for people to come to me versus I'm going to go up and talk to people. I remember the first time I met Marlene in person, I was so impressed because she was going up and talking to people. She wasn't just sitting in a corner waiting for people to come to her. That spoke to me. That girl's a leader. Versus, oh, Michelle didn't come talk to me. When reality is Michelle has so many people on her mind and I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to talk to all these people, but I really want to be focused on what you're saying that there's no way I can possibly talk to everybody in this room. Do you see what I mean? So leaders initiate. Leaders are always looking for how they can make other people feel included. Here's the deal. Leaders always think of other people and they're really not concerned with themselves, right? That's the whole point of it. They're more interested in learning about other people versus than having people know them. So I loved that part. So how does that translate into what we're doing with recruiting and retaining? Because it's very easy to see how this applies to recruiting. How does this apply to retention?
I think just by continually being genuinely interested in someone. I mean, just because you've met someone once or you've connected with them a few times, the relationship doesn't stop there. That's just scratching the surface for more conversation and more opportunities for connection.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You keep asking questions. You keep checking in with them. How are you doing? Tell me where you want to be in a year from now. What do you see for your life? Oh, you said you wanted to take a vacation. Awesome. I have a cruise you can earn. You want to hear more about that? What are your thoughts about that? Do you see what I'm saying? Continuing to ask and find out, and then maybe something that you have, you can connect the dots with. Genuinely being concerned and loving them and stewarding them well. Okay, let's see, how are we on time? Let's talk about Ted. Y'all remember Ted on page 199? I have a couple Teds in my house. I'm not going to tell you which people in my house are Teds. Leah know which people are Teds in my house. What was Ted's issue? Remember Ted's issue?
He thought
He
everybody had to be perfect.
Yeah. You know, it's so funny. And some of this is just personality wise. Like my oldest daughter, I'll never forget. She was standing on that little Fisher Price plastic stool so she could get to the sink to brush her teeth, you know. And I'd corrected her for something, and she was sitting there and she was so mad. I'm like, you know, 'cause I had to correct her. And she goes, but I want to be perfect. When am I going to be perfect? And I was like, well, darling, that would be never. Perfection's been done. His name is Jesus, and you're not him. And she just, like, it from when she was like 5, that was in her, right? But if perfection is always your standard, that could be a very miserable existence because you're never hitting it. So how do we, Leah Shea Gruber, how do we help somebody in this journey when perfection is almost innate? Like that's what they so long for. And here's the thing, it's not a mistake that they were made that way, right? Because God created them fearfully and wonderfully and perfectly. What is his prescription or guidance for somebody that's always looking for perfection? I just voluntold you, Leah, or anybody else. Do you remember?
You want me to go?
Sure. Sure.
Well, one, like you said, just recognize the fact that perfection is already done and that is not us. 2, I can remember one of my very favorite bosses in corporate America sitting me down and saying, and this was before I had just kind of gotten started. And she was like, listen, you're going to be a fantastic manager, but understand that not everyone is going to do business like you do business. Not everyone's going to, handle their career the way you handle your career. And so she was basically saying everyone has the right to be different. There's not just one way to get things done. And not to hold everyone to the standard in which I hold myself.
Yeah.
And, have a little more fun, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Let
exactly
your
what
hair down a little bit.
Yeah, that's what he said too. Don't always be the reformer. Like live and let live. Just enjoy. It doesn't always have to be perfect. I love that. That was greatly. I've had to learn, and I'm not a perfectionist, but that lesson about not everybody will, hold themselves to the same standards that you hold yourself to is very, very true. And here's the thing, I have a grace for God's calling on my life, which is different for the grace that Deborah has on her calling, which is Deborah than say Lisa's, which is different than Danielle's, which is different than Lox's, do you see? So it's really, as long as we keep our eyes on Jesus and moving forward. Okay, so let's talk about the 2 channels, the 2 frequencies. Do you remember the 2 channels? This was so good. What we're always listening to something, right? We're always listening to a voice. Me too, Marlene. This was so good. I'm going to use this with my daughters. 2 channels, and we're always picking up a broadcast from one channel or another. What were those 2 channels?
P and N, positive and negative.
That's right. Okay, so, and it's a choice, right? Because what naturally what comes up is the negative, right? I mean, wouldn't it be fabulous if you woke up every day thinking, oh, what a beautiful morning. Oh, what a beautiful day, and you started singing Oklahoma or whatever, but that's not reality, right? How do we tune into channel P versus channel N? Because here is what may come up. Okay, let's talk about this. How do we turn into channel P when you want to go check your points for the day, when you want to log into your virtual office? We're just going to hit it where it hurts right now and just let's go for it. How do you dial into channel P when you want to log into your virtual office?
I think before going in, just thanking the Lord for your people ahead of time, thanking him for your new joins, thanking him for the people that have been great product users, just being grateful.
A to the men, Deborah, because you know what? Somebody would love to be where you are. I would love to be a diamond. I'm going to be a diamond. You would all love to be sapphires. Someone would love to be a senior gold, Deborah. Someone would love to be a gold. Do you see what I'm saying? There's somebody wants what you have. And being grateful is gratitude unlocks miracles, right? That's hilarious, Leah. I bet he did. That he would play that song.
No, he would sing it.
That's
in
hilarious.
A super loud voice, but honestly, I think it's one of the reasons I'm a morning person. Like, I love waking up in the morning. But I think he instilled that in me. Like, it was always a joyful time.
That's awesome. That's a post. And the power of the word. No, that's a post. You got to put that down. And the power as parents that you have to shape a child's attitude. And he spoke life over you. So if I write a post about how my dad used to sing to me, oh, what a beautiful morning. Don't anybody say anything. I'm just kidding. Okay. What about how do you turn into channel P when you open Messenger to see who has responded to any of your 15 reach outs that you did? And you only have one response. How do you dial into channel P?
Well,
So I
first
think
of
you-
all, just to be thankful for the one response that you had, if you only have one. If you have none, just to remember that not everybody is thinking about Plexus 24 hours a day like you are.
100%. And I love what Salih said, 100%, Marlene, because they're not. Or maybe you sent 15 messages at 9 o'clock at night and they didn't see it or whatever. And all of this, like Salih says, it takes intentionality, right? You have to be intentional about saying no to the negative thought of, oh, great, I'm not going to recruit anybody. Why am I doing this? Versus instead saying, no, that's not the truth. That belongs in the garbage. I'm going to keep taking messages out because God has my people and I'm faithful to sow seeds and water them. And this is just part of the normal process of sowing seeds. Okay. What about, what could you tell yourself the difference between P and N for deciding what level to go for the leaders retreat contest? Let's just get real. How do you dial into channel P versus channel N?
I think for me, it's just doing, like, speaking over myself, and speaking scripture, what I know that God thinks about me, what he has said about me. He has good plans for me. Just doing that, honestly, has really helped me. I had to do that yesterday. Yesterday was a very challenging day, and so, yes, I had to do that a lot.
Girl, I understand. It has been a challenging week. I mean, I had to be very intentional not to just pick up and go to the beach and turn everything off. So, which I never do. Yeah. Okay, what about this one? We've got 3 more days of convention contests, double credits. How do you tile into channel P versus channel N when you're evaluating how you did on convention contest? Maybe some of you hit your goals, maybe some of you didn't. So how do you dial into channel P versus channel N?
Well, I think just like how we started, right? Gratitude, first of all, regardless of where you ended up, if you ended up hitting your goals or you didn't end up hitting your goals, being grateful for the journey. That's what I have really, like, God has been like hammering. Like, I don't enjoy the journey. Let's be real, I don't. And so, like, God has really been working on my heart, like enjoying the journey, whether I hit goals, whether I don't hit goals, like enjoy the journey, enjoy the gifts that the people, the pride, like whatever it is, like it is all part of the journey with him to grow and mature us.
I love it, Tracy. And I 100% believe in that. I also think there's an element where we can say, okay, Lord, what do I have to learn? Because being grateful and enjoying the journey is one part of it. But say you had a goal to sweep the contest and you sent out 1 message a day. And part of it is learning to evaluate to see what could I have done differently? How can I learn from this? And so to look back and to evaluate and then analyze and reflect and learn. What can I learn? What could I have done differently? What can I do differently now that we're entering Leaders Retreat contest? And that, I mean, I've had to learn that lesson. What do I need to learn? Like, one of the things I learned recently, because a couple months ago, my recruiting numbers went down. And so I was like, why? Because I've always been a very consistent recruiter, sometimes a high recruiter, but very consistent. And then I wasn't consistent. Like, I was having 1 or 2 recruits a month. I'm like, this is not okay. And so I had to evaluate what was going on. And one of the things I realized was I was posting much more about the opportunity and not as much about the products and stories. And that directly affected my recruiting numbers. So I started posting a lot more about the products. I'm just posting a lot more in general, like 2 to 3 posts a day. So I can get in Plexus and personal to keep the 2-to-1 personal to Plexus ratio. But then my recruiting numbers went up. So I looked back and learned, and then was thankful for a lesson that I could learn. So now I'm steadily recruiting at least 3 people a month. Do you see what I'm saying? So gratitude, reflecting, evaluating, and learning 100%. And I think the other part of this is realizing that the prize is not the destination, but the real true prize, like Tracy was said, is living out of purpose. And my purpose is not to be a diamond. My purpose is to help people be and do and have all that God has for them. And as I'm stewarding what God has trusted me with now, well, I'm living out my purpose. I am a success. A rank or a point doesn't define my success. I am a success now. And when you know your success, your purpose, you can go to bed soul satisfied, knowing that you've lived out your purpose and you've stewarded what God has given you well, regardless of the points in your back office, right? That is channel P, living out of your purpose, confidence, stewardship, partnering with the Holy Spirit. Oh, thank you, Lord. Okay. And then, oh, we're already over time. Okay. We already talked about the person who does the most talking. I mean, the person who's the most successful is the one who does the least talking. The last thing, and you guys know, I mean, Sally's nailed it on the head. It takes intentionality to switch from channel N to channel P. Number one, you have to realize that you're listening to channel N or P. You have to become curious about your thoughts, and then you have to be intentional about throwing the N into the garbage and replacing it with P. Right? And you have that ability and responsibility. And not choosing is still choice. It's just called passivity. So, oh, snap, Tracy, that's awesome. Channel P, purpose. Boom, shakalaka laka. That was great. Positive purpose. I love it. Okay, last thing I want to talk about, and if you have to hop off, but at the end, he talked about that man who says we should treat customers like guests in our home. How can we do that? And how does that play into Leaders Retreat Contest? Boom, boom, boom. Do you realize Leaders Retreat Contest, you're going to get the most points for retention if you're doing it well? So how do we treat guests? How do we treat our customers like, bye, Chuck? So how do we, bye, sweetheart? How do we treat our customers as like guests in our home?
I think the biggest thing is just being kind and serving people well. Like, I mean, I feel like that's one of the biggest things is kindness. Kindness goes a long ways.
You're right. You're right, Marlene.
Yeah, definitely going the extra mile, I think, with our customers. And, helping them get the best results, but also like things, like I had a customer that got the wrong product. She couldn't get to a UPS to return it. So I went to pick up the product to return it to UPS. And I will say in that, she happened to mention she wanted to have another source of income. So that opened the door for, sharing about the business. So, loving our customers, going the extra mile.
That's awesome, Deborah. Way to go. Maybe a handwritten note. Maybe a phone call. Hey, I just wanted to see how you were doing. Even if you get their voicemail and they don't even check it for a week, like me, I never check voicemail, but then you can text them and say, hey, I left you a voicemail. I just wanted to see how you were doing. Did you get that message? That would say something to me, right? For your happy product users, or just, hey, I just wanted to check on you. How can I be praying for you today? Treat them like guests in your home. If we did that, your retention credits are going to, because retention is where it's at. What if we were known for a team that lifted people up and treated our people like they were guests in our home? Duplication and retention. We know how to recruit. Maybe that's what it truly means to be living free. Right? Well, thanks for your time, ladies. Any final thoughts on this chapter? I love this chapter. I love this book so, so, so much. Any final thoughts about thinking right towards people? Oh, I do have a final thought. His last point, don't blame others. He said, remember how long you think about a setback or how long you think about a loss determines how long it will be until you win. Let's just get real. Say you don't hit your goal for convention contest, or you didn't recruit 3 people to get your spot card. However long you dwell on that is how long you'll stay stuck. When will you get out of channel N and get in channel P? Because channel P is going to help take you where you want to go. I thought that was incredibly insightful. It's just another way of saying whatever you focus on expands. So are you focusing on growth and duplication and attracting self-motivated, kingdom-minded leaders and, growing? Or are you focusing on lack? Are you focusing on abundance and living out of a place of abundance because your God, your Father, owns everything and has everything, and he said he would give you everything because you're his child? He gave you Jesus, he's going to give you everything. Or you focus on what you don't have? I thought that was very powerful. Okay, I'm going to be quiet. Any other final things? Comments about this chapter? All righty, everybody. Have a great night. Cannot wait to end this month strong. Let's go. Let's bust it out and beat last month. Love you guys.